We are recording.
We are recording. So really excited to have all of you back to the New Earth platform. And Fanos, you've been here before. And Nate, you've been here before, but we have Davio, we've been trying to get you, and Jarmbi joining us. So this is the New Earth Project. This is actually our 56th conversation, and we are doing our third Aussie Warrior update. All of you there on the ground, we know it's a lot going on. This is actually the 1 week countdown for the New Earth Project's next event, which is Drawing the Line in the Sand. And I would have to say that a lot of it has been activated, the vision behind that, because of all of you. I mean, what the intensity of what's been happening there in Australia. And I think it was on one of our conversations where Sacha said, we're gonna draw the line in the sand. and let's do an event. So this is a global event that we're gonna do, a 4-hour marathon starting next Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern time. That's in New York, 8 p.m. Bali time for Sacha, starting with Australia, moving to Africa, then to Europe and the States and Canada. So we'll be having seminal voices on for 4 hours straight. Sacha will get a break in between because David Martin will be co-hosting with him. It's going to be a phenomenal event. So please get the countdown at reclaimyourlives.com. With that, Sacha, I'm going to hand it over to you to get the update from these incredible warriors.
Very good. Thanks, Imani. Greetings, gents. Really good to spend some time with you. And Nate, a good friend of mine who is a thought pioneer and visionary of human potential, a geopolitical activist and anarchist, a speaker, wields the sword of truth. I can testify to that, and he has no fear in voicing it, and that actually is the point. He helps folks see through the agenda and be the best versions of themselves, living without fear. Nate, good to see you, brother. We've also got Jarmbi, who I think Nate can do an introduction to shortly. Very much looking forward to hearing from him, an original custodian of the Northern Rivers, and very, very welcome here today. Fanos, no stranger to the New Earth Network, a poster boy for all that's righteous and proper with the human today. And Davio, great to meet you for the first time, brother. I don't have any kind of biography on you in front of me. I just know that, like the rest of us, you are a fully paid up Adam, a good human, and a shit stirrer in the middle of this pantomime. So Davio, please, as our newbie, please just give us a couple of minutes on the status quo.
Yeah, thanks, Sacha. Look, really good to be here. And Davio, that's actually, you can call me Davo. Everyone in Australia calls me Davo. But look, as far as what's happening in Australia right now, there is, I guess, an intense polarization. You have a diametrically opposed two aspects of society here. You've got people who are becoming fully awakened to the agenda, and then you've got people who are fully clinging to the existing paradigm because their entire existence depends upon it. And I put up a post the other day saying that the people who are still siding with Daniel Andrews down there in Victoria, the pain that he's putting them through is still less than the pain of admitting the lie that they've believed, right? The pain of admitting that they've been wrong for so long and that they've believed this absurdity is still greater than the pain that he's inflicting, and that's what's going on. So there's still this kind of stalemate at this stage here in Australia. We have, you know, they constantly report the cases. Oh, there's been 50 new cases here and 10 new cases there. What they don't report on, though, however, and where my optimism comes from and the smile on my face, is the tens of thousands of people who are awakening every single day here in this country. And my inbox is flooded with messages. I can't keep up. There's hundreds of people reaching out to me saying, thank you for getting this information out there. I'm seeing what's going on. And they're sending me this huge amount of information because there's tens of thousands of people waking up by the day. So the mainstream media is still fear-mongering like crazy here. Our media here, Sacha, is so constantly just driving fear. That's their only currency that we see here in this country. But even your biggest skeptics now are going, okay, this is looking a little bit absurd. So I feel, particularly even in just the last few days, that there's been a real shift here in Australia, that we've kind of turned the corner where the masses now are saying, okay, this is ridiculous, absurd, and we've had enough, which is exciting.
Right. Well, I mean, that's really good to hear from you. You're on the front line, you're on the ground. I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, tapping into the ethos about what's happening all around the world right now, the paradoxes, the bizarre fantasia, the vaudeville that's playing out has become so farcical. Leaders, quote unquote, who are playing increasingly into this fucked up dialectic, they are exposing themselves like sock puppets. It's becoming so apparent that these creatures are either unensouled or completely devoid of conscience, and in the pay or in the blackmail possibly of globalist transnationalists. Because to see world leaders, prime ministers, heads of state, ministers conducting such abject fraud against the people, knowing that the rule of law will ultimately catch up with them. I mean, that's what's so bizarre, is that these are not stupid people. These are people who went to university and college in the main. They know that international human rights, that Geneva Convention, that Nuremberg Code will be invoked in courtrooms. And they also know enough about history to know that when you piss off the proletariat enough, they come after you with a hangman's noose. So what it is that sees them into continuing to play in to the pantomime, that's the aberrance that I don't get. Like, do they know something we don't know? Like, is there a comet coming and they're all going to be in bunkers, in 3 weeks' time? Anyway, we'll find that out soon enough. And I'm sure that Jarmbi will be able to give us some of the First Nation wisdom on this, because it is all about dream spell and about how we wake up in that dream spell at this time. And that's connected very much to the ancient prophecies. I'm going to ask you, Fanos, please, brother, welcome. We have to be a little bit careful of what we say with you on the panel, but please navigate for us and give us 2 or 3 minutes on the status quo.
Yeah, so basically, what's going on with my situation? Is that what we're asking about?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So because of the fact that I was arrested for it's a technicality, really. I was arrested for a technicality, and they labeled it as incitement, okay? Which was basically I was arrested and I was told that I have strict bail conditions, and those bail conditions are I can't speak of anything that could be seen as inciting anyone to break any laws, local laws or Commonwealth or state laws. So, I have to really be careful about speaking about, protesting or not following the rules or not adhering to the chief health officer's directions, right? So they essentially put a gagging order on me, and I've been very, very careful about what I've had to speak to. I've actually been a little bit traumatized, actually. Every time I hear a knock on the door, I run over to the door just to make sure cops aren't going to kick it in. So, yeah, it hasn't been a great time. And you know what? I do know that the truth will prevail. And when it does, I'm going to take each and every single one of these guys to the cleaners, mate.
Good.
For false imprisonment. Every single one of them, I'm going to hold them accountable.
Good to hear, man. And I wonder, if these mandarins in costume who are ultimately breaking and breaching true law, because at the end of the day, Fanos, as you know, we all know here, there's a huge distinction between law and statute, between a law and an ordinance or a code or a provision that's dreamt up by some twat in the civil service, in the judiciary, the legislature, who are all in the pay of lobbies and multinational corporations and special interests, and of course, transnational globalist metadata control, tracking, surveillance interests. I mean, that's the big interest, is the engineered harvest of humanity. And that's what Australia has been put in the front line of that right now. So it's all playing out on your chessboard. And how you guys navigate, meaning Australia navigates, will determine how this game plays out to the rest of the world. We know that. But I wonder, Fanos, if any of these mandarins in costume who are breaching true law in order to uphold illicit and unlawful statutes, which absolutely abrogate, derogate, violate, breach human rights, primary law, right to life, human rights, Geneva Convention, Nuremberg Code. I wonder if any of them go home and pull off those costumes, put down all the paraphernalia of harm and injury like tasers and guns and batons, and actually reflect for 2 minutes about the role that they're playing in sending Australians down the Swanee. Do you think there's any reflection going on, or have they become so stupefied as a species, as a culture? And I mean that. I've made films about police brutality with chiefs of police. I've met with heavyweight police, and I have tremendous respect for good police. I have no respect for thugs in costume. So please speak to that just a little bit.
I don't think that the police officers these days actually know how to practice empathy. And I think they're actually engineered that way. You know, the heavy metals in vaccines, I've learned as of late, does really affect people's mental function, and, you know, really does, you know, affect the part of the brain that has to do with empathy. And I believe it's not by accident. They're all made to make sure all of their vaccinations are up to date and all the other stuff. So I don't believe all police officers are, you know, are violent, but I believe that there is a large amount of narcissists who have found the perfect job now where they can kick the crap out of people and not be held accountable. And if anything, the government applauds their actions.
And so the key thing here, Fanos, being what? Being take down names and badge numbers. Take names, badge numbers, photographs. You need that stuff, because this is ultimately going to play out in courtrooms or tribunals.
100%.
It's going
100%. I read an interesting thing in the Biosecurity Act. So one thing I've said to myself is I'm going to actually commit myself as of Monday, and I've been doing it as of the weekend, to just engross myself in the laws that these guys believe they're protected by. And I've found so many holes in what they've been doing at the moment. It's not funny. I looked up the principles of the Biosecurity Act, which is meant to take a precedent over the Public Health and Wellbeing Act, which they don't even know that. It says it in there. And the principles that you're meant to follow when you're dealing with people that are under being given a biosecurity control order, there's meant to be certain provisions. You're only meant to use as much force that would be necessary. And 9 guys on top of someone because they're not wearing a mask, I'm sorry, but you're in complete breach of the principles of the Biosecurity Act you're meant to be working under.
Yeah, well, I personally, fair enough. I'm not going to say what I want to say there. Don't want to get you in any more hot water than you is. Except to say that you do have a bunch of friends with lawyers and barristers and judges and good people who understand the rule of law. And so any of the thuggery looking in on this in Australia, and again, I've got no respect for that. Bad police are rotten to the core. And roundabout now, they can make or break the entire civilizational model. So it's down to the wire. You've got a lot of international support, and that's only going to grow. Nate, brother, welcome. Great to see you again. I'm going to ask you, please, just to also give your 2 or 3 minutes on the status quo. And then, please, can you also just give some background on Jarmbi Miles, who he is, why we need to take his voice very seriously moving forward? Thank you.
Right. So thanks for having me on. Now, I felt last time we spoke, I spoke to you just prior to the protests that went on, and we did an interview. And I went to Sydney and was helping to run those protests. I'll be part of it. And I really felt something snap when I was in Sydney. I felt this obvious energy change midway through the protest. And now the first one was a bit of a trap that was set up for us, but they're so scared to let anybody even talk on a megaphone that the police were literally swamping anyone that would grab the megaphone, because the energy is so rampant. People are so ready for something new, and they're ready for taking back their freedom, that they're like, do not let a single person talk for a minute. And both times I got taken out. I was arrested, but talked my way out of both protests. And I felt halfway through this energy because everyone was standing around. The police were like, hey, you need to go to the car park, you leave, you're breaking this law, whatever. And everyone just ignored them completely and kept walking, and they started laughing. And then the chant basically came of, you work for us, you work for us. And there's 1,000 people chanting, you work for us. And the police at that point, the energy went from, we're going to stand around and play the old Roman games where we circle you and we have our coats on, our horses, and it's all set up to look scary, to people going, we don't even care. And every person that was being dragged out were going, they're talking common law, they're talking legislation, they're talking this. Right. So many people had the law, the rules, the nous behind them, and they empowered women, men, old, young. And let me tell you, I've been calling out for a while for alpha males to show up. And at that protest, there was a lot of big boys there, man. There was a lot of big dudes in that crowd from all different places. And I'd actually thought to myself at the end, I was like, you know what? This narrative is going to fall apart, and it is falling apart. And it's obvious. I took basically 10 days off the internet the last week just to get away from it, because everything was going viral, and I can feel people connecting with me when I'm getting big posts and things like that. And for me, walking around the streets and going to different areas, nothing's changed. Everything's the same. It's not panning out the way they want. So basically, I don't know what their next move is, but for me, it's like it's going to finish up soon. And I don't think they've got many cards left in their pocket to roll out, because really everyone's waking up so quickly with this one. They're not going to be able to basically backpedal and get back on top. The awakening is happening, like what Davo said. And I'm actually feeling inside myself now, like, yeah, we're actually on the home run. I'm feeling like we're going to go on the home run, because no matter what laws they bring out now, these ridiculous laws where they want to try and put people in prison for whatever it is, detain people for posting, it's like, that just shows how desperate you are. So everything's kind of working in our favor. And deeply in my heart now, what I'm feeling is that what Jarmbi's bringing, and people connecting on these spiritual quests, these activations that are going on, us going inwards and focusing on what we can create, as opposed to fighting the old system, which is dead and dying. That for me seems to be this golden light which is coming up, where people are like, wow, actually we can do more damage from the comfort of our homes, or with 20 or 40 of our friends down at the park, and we can co-create on a quantum level. And that's what our beautiful brother here, Jarmbi's been doing, is imparting some knowledge to us for us to get ready for the times that are coming. So I think that's basically where we're headed. It's the quantum realm. The 3D realm is kind of falling apart, and we're going really well. People are rising up all around the world. We've got it covered. Everyone's getting into common law. Everyone's getting empowered. People are realizing in numbers we have strength. That's the single most important thing. Just if you're going to go to a protest, just turn up, man. Don't worry about anything. Just show up. That's the most important thing we can do. So it's simple. It's back to basics now. You know what I mean? I actually don't need to say anything we don't already know, but it's like, let's go inwards. The only way out is in, and that's the key, I think, at this moment in time.
Nate, that's beautiful. And that's beautiful. You've just described the inverse logic of the true mathematics of the quantum, which is that there is no escaping out of the matrix. There's only collapsing perfectly into the still point within the heart of the matrix. And if you get that in your head, that's all about being present, being with yourself, being in spirit, being in complete coherence with the geometry of now, and right action, pure truth, standing in your flame, the Adam, the original man. I mean, this is where Jarmbi and his voice will definitely come in. Jarmbi, a very warm welcome to you, and thank you for joining us. Please, any words of wisdom you can dispense to us would be greatly welcomed.
And unmute your microphone too, brother.
Yeah.
There you go. Good.
Yeah, well, I suppose, like Nate was saying, over the past 10 years, I've been very, very much focused on, I guess, coming from the right angle. For me, it's the earth is the first thing. That's kind of my boss. So for me to see what's going on with the earth, and then why is it going on, and then who's supposed to be doing what, and why aren't they doing it? These sort of key questions that I asked myself a long time ago, and it's I have indigenous bloodline and everything, but the for some reason, I was shown a way through that was able to bring in teachings from all over the place, but mostly in my own life to school up on the spirituality that could be shared by anybody, for anybody, anyone can use it. So that really dispels all the black politics and all that sort of stuff that is a gate for this time. It's my understanding is as people are awakening, it's us, it's the indigenous that are supposed to be helping them to tune back in and come home to the mother. So that's the purpose. That's my focus. But in that, I see everything that's going on. I understand the common law. I understand the politics that's playing out. I understand who's pushing buttons on world, off world, all that. But in the end, there's little keys of wisdom around understanding that the society will, and the law and politics will always reflect the people. So if we are sovereign in ourselves, responsible, self-actualized, and all that, then all that other rubbish falls away. And that's exactly how I understand things to be happening right now. And the more I just do my bit, which happens to be sharing more and more of the wisdom that I've learned and the keys that I've learned from different sources, and helping everyone to find their own solid self. I call it like finding your ass and living with it. Helping everyone to get to that point that they can then stand in their truth and their full self-responsibility for their life path that's been chosen, that they've taken on. It's that's the key to everything, man. That's where everything, all the politics, all the laws and all that, they have to come into alignment, because that's where we're at. If we are disconnected and we're running around crazy and we're not doing our healing processes and we're not taking responsibility for our own lives and our own actions, then of course we need to be policed. We need to have a political system to govern over us.
Mm.
Okay, that's a beautiful perspective. I mean, even I, as a veteran activist, had not actually thought that thought, and I'm really quite enchanted with it. I'm so used to rejecting systems and rejecting frameworks and any kind of system that I'd never thought that actually it's obvious that we invite and engineer the system in direct proportion to the degree to which we do not own our own sovereignty and consciousness. So it's a perfect geometry that's always playing out there. But Jarmbi, Australia's got a lot of, shall we say, and especially connected to the Indigenous or First Nation peoples, soul anchoring. There's a tremendous connection to, obviously, cosmogenesis and the Adamic element of the human being, the genesis of humanity, shall we say. Certainly, the primary storyline seems to be anchored in the peoples of the First Nations there. And we've also got a phenomenon of having tremendous amount of underground activity with military bases. I know this, I've been speaking to people who are directly involved in those retrievals and things that have been going on. So we know over the last few months that this is absolutely underway with special ops forces. Pine Gap is obviously well known to anyone in this area of research. Pine Gap is the sort of Australia's Area 51, Roswell. There's a whole heap of shit going on underground there. I'm speaking also to analysts, geoseismic analysts, who can prove absolutely the depths that this is going to, what's happening underground there. And it's extraordinary stuff. My question to you is, how much do the Indigenous peoples of Australia know about this stuff, and how much are they expecting this to be part of the revelation that comes out of this end of days apocalypse that we're living through, this corona bullshit, which is clearly the virus, the stealth virus that's collapsing the mask, collapsing the artifice of governments and of control and manipulation and military intelligence, covert operations. All of that stuff is part of the syndrome, the complex I'm talking about. What is the position? Is there a position of the First Nation peoples in Australia to revelation happening from the ET side of things and the UFO side of things?
Obviously, I can't speak for everyone, and it's very wrong of me too, especially since like we've got so many varied stories, so many different different perspectives for different reasons. But I feel that a lot of us being able to hold things the way we have for so long, through all the bullshit, through the whole shit show of colonization, that's been attributed to us being able to sit back, hold stock, don't go to war, don't push that button that can obviously get us annihilated. And our deeper law is still intact.
Yeah.
It always will be, and it's in the bloodline. And it flows through. It doesn't matter how many different. It doesn't matter how many times it's been bred with or mixed in, or how far down the line genetically it goes. It's still going to be there. It's just like anybody can close their eyes, take a deep breath, feel their blood, and they can go back to the Viking days. It can go back to caveman days, as far back as you allow yourself to take it. So for that old true story, it's about where the true law, where Mother Earth taught us how to connect and what we can and can't do.
Yeah.
So the old law will always be there. It'll always be there because Mother will always be there. The Earth will always be there. So for all these different games being played over the top, having that deeper knowledge that's always going to be there is a lot, makes it a lot easier to actually weather this shit. But if we go into all the stories about Roswell and all that, and over here in Pine Gap and all that, it's fucking so much. Whatever the hell they're doing down in Antarctica, whatever the Nazis did, it's still the same issue. It's for whatever reason, humans got screwed with. And I talk about it now. Talking about how the Anunnaki. I talk about Thoth. I talk about Anunnaki, all that. When it comes to breeding the slave race, because they didn't want to mine the gold anymore. That stuff makes complete sense, and we've known that. We've been dealing with the off world. We've been dealing with the star tribes since the creation.
Yeah.
Now,
I think thank you. This is really helpful. Can drill in a little bit more. I'm trying to get to whether or not you think that there's going to be any kind of real disclosure of all. We all know that this is going on. I mean, you speak to anyone in middle America, middle England, middle Botswana, they all know lights in the sky, ETs. No one's got a problem with it, except for the old patriarchal governments and the military intelligence brass who've always thought, well, humans are too stupid to handle this stuff. So they decided back in the day under Eisenhower's era to not tell the truth about these things. And your peoples have always been speaking the truth of these things in very simplistic ways. Do you think there's going to be full disclosure coming soon, anytime soon? Essentially, that's my question.
Yeah. But I think we have to be ready for it. I believe that they're all sitting back watching. The ones that aren't here to mess with us, the ones that are actually here to help, the ones that truly are part of the Galactic Alliance or whatever, however you want to picture it.
Right.
That we're meant to be using this opportunity to either evolve to that place to sit at the Federation or not, or de-evolve. So, which is where we're right on that edge with now. So yeah, one way or another, it's going to come around. It has to, and but it's all about where are we going to be at? Are we ready to take that on? A lot of people like romanticize the idea of it, but what is the actual truth of standing there in front of something like that, or being responsible?
Well, we're going to find out in our lifetimes, almost certainly. I just made a film with, as I was telling Fanos a moment ago, just made a film with Ricardo Bossi, who's the political leader of the Australia First or Australia One party. And he's got a very compelling position. He's a former military guy and businessman who's just sick to death of what's going on in Australia, and is going to put him, he's entering the race. And he's got some fantastic policies that he's circumscribed. One of them is a complete disclosure, like turning over all the files to the people. He says there's absolutely no excuse any longer to keep this kind of stuff from people. Anyway, I have a feeling that Australia is going to be at the tip of the spear of this kind of revelation and disclosure, and it's more to do with the whale dreaming and the song lines and all of this incredible majestic song in the DNA and RNA of the First Nation peoples. They will see soon enough. Dave, please speak to this subject if you wish, but I was actually going to ask you to give a message, not to an extraterrestrial, about where we should be driving and steering this planet. I was going to ask you to give a message to police in Australia and health workers and medical professionals, all the people who are playing in to the pantomime. I wanted to get you, because you've got a fantastic take on things. You seem to be fearless like the rest of my brothers here, but you've also got a very humorous take on what's happening. So by all means, speak to the ET and disclosure question if you wish to, but I'm also keen to hear what message you have to all of the people who are salaried and pensioned by the system, who are playing into the vaudeville that is being exposed.
Yeah, thanks, Sacha. Look, I'll keep it brief because we've got such a great panel of people here, but it's very, very simple. Everyone has to make a choice. There's no gray areas. You're either supporting the tyranny and the evil, or you're going to side with what's good and right and true and integrity and represents goodness. This is literally standing in the light of true sovereignty and who we really are. And this is what we're seeing happen right now. And I said this on the last post I put up on my Facebook the other night. The only reason we're seeing this entire shit show for all it really is because it's like we've all been fumbling around for our entire lifetimes in this complete nightmare that this world actually has been, of wars, of child sex trafficking, of pedophilia, of corruption, of lies, deceit, everywhere. We've been fumbling around in darkness, and now we're seeing it because the light is coming in. And everyone's going to have to choose: am I going to stay in the darkness, or am I going to stand in the light? And that's the only thing I would say to every single person out there who is in a position of authority is make your choice and make it loud. Make your fucking choice and make it loud. Tell the world you've made your choice, because your silence is consent. You have a voice, and life and death is in the power of the tongue. If you speak, you have that power. And so when you make your decision, what side you are going to be on, let the fucking world know about it. And that's all I've ever said. Speak the truth, because the truth is the only thing that unites us all. It ends every argument. And I see the bickering and the hatred and the anger and the conflict in the world. It's all ended by the truth. It doesn't matter if it's vaccinations. It doesn't matter if it's masks. It doesn't matter if it's any of the stuff that we're seeing. The truth ends it. And the sadness and the despair in the world is ended by the truth.
But Dave, the counter argument to someone in costume or in uniform hiding behind a badge or a seal of office is, and a pension and a salary, is that to speak truth to power when you are within the power structure is to forfeit your salary and your pension and all the benefits that go with wielding a taser. So that's always the counter argument, isn't it?
Of course it is, and that's the thing. Like, you know, our country's built here on the Anzac legends, you know, and it comes down to sacrifice and what every single person's going to be willing to sacrifice in this war. You know, most people still haven't realized that they're in the Third World War. It's a psychological and spiritual war, and they haven't realized that every single soldier and warrior on that battlefield has to make some sacrifice of some kind. Every single person on this call right now has made sacrifices. We've been ridiculed, we've been mocked, we've been slandered, we've had hate mail, all that sort of stuff. You know, I've had, you know, business opportunities, employment opportunities, all that stuff taken away. We make sacrifices. We get the anxiety. I know what Fanos has been through, the relentless bombardment, the sacrifices that he's made for his country. So you're going to have to make a sacrifice of some kind, whatever that is, you know, because...
It's interesting you say this, because it's either you make a sacrifice consciously and willfully, or you become a sacrificial lamb. It's really quite simple, isn't it?
Powerful. You just nailed it, Sacha. Yeah, absolutely nailed it. And so that would be my only message is speak out, because the person, it's like when you're in a classroom at school and you want to ask a question, but you don't ask it because you're afraid to, but then someone else asks it because everyone's wanting to ask the same question. It's like if someone starts speaking, the voice will become contagious and everyone's just going to go, well, fuck this. Let's just get on with life.
Always the way prison riots always start because of one motherfucker starts
right.
That's always the way. That's the beauty about the human spirit, is any one human who's actualized in a given situation can be the flint, the spark that just flames the mob. And really, we're getting to that point now. And that's why I love you guys so much. And I love doing this stuff, because we place ourselves in the tip of the spear and in the heat of the flame. And there's a lot of it that's uncomfortable, but there's some stuff that makes you feel really alive, as you know.
Absolutely.
Well. Let me just say, look, I'm going to give you a hint here, Fanos. Okay, William is the name, right? But when a guy who has enough money to end world hunger with a checkbook, end poverty through his checkbook, and regenerate the soil, the air, and the water, and clean the oceans. Instead, that man chooses to pump his money, his billions and billions and billions of dollars, into releasing GMO mosquitoes, blocking out the sun, creating fake meat, and producing poisons in vaccines that he then intends to stab into the arms of billions of babes. What do you have to say to a man like that?
Where's your conscience? Surely you're not human. You have no empathy whatsoever. You are completely stone cold. Your blood is like ice water, and you're just not human. That guy's a demon. A demon, whatever you want to call him. He's a dark entity, a dark energy, a dark force. He is just pure and utter evil. The guy with just 10% of his bank account could cure hunger across the world, right? And how many people die of hunger a year? 6.5 million or something? Where are all these wankers wearing masks back then for people dying? Didn't hear him, did you? Didn't even batter an eyelid, right? But the guy wants to vaccinate. He just has ice water in his veins. I don't see him as human. I don't see him as God's creature or flesh and blood. I see him as something dark. And when you look into his eyes, there's nothing there. It's almost like there's nothing behind those eyes. If I was going to put it.
True, and his body language is very weird. I mean, Nate knows this about me. I'll never speak ill of a living man, a natural-born living man. I'll never speak ill, even if rocks are being thrown at my head by individuals. I won't speak ill of them in the public domain. I will absolutely in private. But with this guy, I don't believe he's insulted either. And you look at his body language, it's in these creepy little cardigans that he wears, you know, And there's something very disjointed and discombobulated about the body language and about the tone of the voice. And it never just doesn't quite cogitate any of it to anyone who's sentient. And I really say this to people, you know, especially today in this time of tribulation and revelation, the great reckoning. You have to really know what you know and feel what you feel and see what you see. Place your feet firmly on the ground.
Yep.
I mean, how do we navigate in a country like Australia, fanos, when every single thing it conspires against the natural born living man with a conscience?
I believe you need to find yourself within. You need to go back to basics. You need to ground yourself. You need to find yourself spiritually, mentally, you know, physically. You need to get your health. You need to get control of your health. And, you know, you can't fight the battle unless you're fit to fight, right? And then, you know, I believe then you have to find the right individuals to surround yourself with. You need to find like-minded individuals that aren't going to drain your energy, sort of like you amazing people today. And, you know, once you do find the right type of individuals to surround yourself with, then you need to navigate yourself through the ridicule, and, you know, you have to take everything for face value, and just, you know, deal with it, take it on the chin when you need to. And, you know, if I was going to liken it to, if you're going down a river rapid, my brother gave me advice one day. He said, you know, in life, he goes, think of it like a river rapid. He goes, if you sit there and you paddle hard, you're going to get tired and you're going to drown. He goes, what you're meant to do is just put your feet up, and then when you feel the right shore you want to paddle to, you paddle to it. And a funny story is when I went to Queensland, and when I went to Queensland with the whitewater rafting, I actually had that experience and kept my feet up. You don't use your energy, and you pick your battles. And I believe that's the most amazing thing. Learn to live in two worlds at the moment, because the New World Order world's not going away anytime soon, right? So you have to learn to live in two worlds, pick your battles, pick your relationships, and make sure you're strong, centered, and, you know, you do have your energy and you are in check with yourself. If I was going to put it in a way. Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. I love that. And because you're talking about a return to basic coherence. So a little thing, a meme was sent to me earlier, just before this session, saying, serious question. Why are there no biohazard bins for used masks and gloves if this virus is so contagious and deadly? And you see, just that piece is enough to be the Achilles heel of the entire pantomime and bring the whole Leviathan crashing to its fucking, to the ground. Just on that alone. Ends, terminates, because that's the departure from reason to insanity. Why are there no biohazard bins being set forth by governments and by health administrative and public officials for used masks and gloves? So you can wear that bullshit and throw it on. I mean, it's just insane. But it's great because it also exposes against the fallacy of what we're all living through. The whole drama can be exposed by a little pinprick. And that's what it is. Nate, this is a great quote from Bill Wood, which I want you to comment to and incorporate into your response. And the quote is, what we're experiencing is two master chess players sitting at the board, and one of them looks down at the board and sees that he's in checkmate in 7 moves. And he looks across at his opponent and he knows that his opponent sees it too. So at this point, the loser can only prolong the game. And both players know that the game is over. Would you agree with that?
I think the game's been over for ages, and they've been kicking the can down the hill for a long time, slowing down the timelines. And I actually question this. This is so poorly put together, much worse than 9/11. And there's so many holes in this game, this chess game, that it's almost like it's been delivered to us in a way to be so pathetic that everyone's going to wake up. I question whether it's actually almost good people creating something that's so stupid that every person can find holes in it and be like, wow. Because I mean, how can you run another PSYOPs after this? This one is so bad. You can't possibly have another Bollywood set after this one. This is it. You know what I mean? If there's an alien invasion or whatever, we already know about that. So it's like we already know that's coming anyhow.
Asteroids, aliens.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's all coming. And what you guys were saying earlier about speaking your truth and all that, this, if we put all this stuff aside and say beyond the 3D, this is about evolution, right? We came here for evolution. This is the best time ever in recorded history for you to hop, skip, and jump your way through your evolution by speaking your goddamn truth, by talking truth to your family, friends, people out there in the streets, getting uncomfortable and doing things you wouldn't normally do. Because the last thing you want to do is get old and have a pocket full of regrets and then be like, man, I should have done all these things on earth, and then pass through and be like, oh my God, I could have done so much. And yeah, I sat on the fence. Alpha men, this is a time to step up and be alpha and just be like, we've got this, guys. Let's band together. Let's unify. And for that person you're talking about earlier, there's simple ways that things can be sorted out, you know what I mean? And we're not going down those routes at the moment. This is a way we can do it naturally, organically, safely. You know, people just have to unify. They just have to come together, turn off the news. That movie, They Live, has never been more true. Are we living with half humans? Like, I would say yes. I would say that there's so much more evidence saying that we're living with half humans, because then it explains why they're doing what they're doing. So many people say to me, Nate, oh, why are they doing this? Like, who would want to do that? And I say to them, look, if you're the evilest scum on the planet, okay, and you wanted to kill everyone, okay, would it make sense then? And everything that happens, 5G, geoengineering, vaccines, the news, blah, 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 okay, it all makes sense under that banner. Very, very simple. And I think this now is out there. You can research secret societies till the cows come home, and you can fully get knowledged up on that. But really, that's actually old information now. The new information is what Jarmbi's talking about. It's what you're talking about. It's going inwards. It's changing this from a different perspective, and our people using our co-creative ability to make change as opposed to fighting the battle. And I've all been about fighting. I've been about like, let's smash the system, let's do that. But the more and more I'm going into the heart, the more I'm like, wow, it's actually much easier for me just to focus on what I want, talk to other people, and they have the same beliefs. They want healthy people, healthy kids. They want free energy. They want to work a 9-to-5 slavery job. They don't want to be told what to do by government stooges. They want real leaders in power. We all have this in common. And the more we talk, the more we go out there, that's it. It's game over. They can implement a new law, but we're not going to do it. They can say they're going to do this. We don't care. We're just not going to do it. It's just like at the protest. Time to go to the car park. You all need to leave before you get arrested. Yeah, good luck. We're just going to do what we want. And there's too many of us who are awake now. So what are you going to do about that?
Good. Very good. But I'll give you my take very briefly. 7+ billion human souls on the planet. Human DNA, RNA is galactic royalty, makes us galactic royalty, because we are the fulmination of so many different species, intergalactic species, subdimensional, hyperdimensional, you know, also millions and millions and millions of years, multiple seedings. Here we are. And we've got this incredible multidimensionality, capacitance in our junk DNA, which is becoming activated. We've got a massive micronova event coming up in 2 or 3 years' time. There's going to be a monster explosion. We know that. The best astrophysicists in the world are telling us that. I'm speaking to a couple of them. They're saying that event is going to create a radiant light field, a UV blast that is unprecedented in the history of this world. And that UV blast has been known by the Illuminati. They know that's coming. That's why the deep underground military bases and labyrinthine tunnel systems and all of the preparations, because and the attempt to cull humanity before that event. Because why? Because the psionic center of human beings connected to their fractal antenna in their blood, in their DNA, is going to become hyperactivated with that UV radiant blast when it hits. And we will be steering the planet into the ascension at the meta level because of that awakened psionic morphogenetic flare, that flashpoint that will occur. And the RNA tampering that is coming with the vaccine, we know now that Moderna stands for modification of endogenous RNA, in the same way that COVID-19 was certification of vaccine identification 2019, which is when it was sparked, which is also 19 years after the Gog and Magog ritual sacrifice of 9/11. All Sabbatean black magic, white man's poison, call it what you will. That's the shit that's played out for the last 2 decades. They know this micronova event is coming. They know that the UV light influx will connect to the awakened human psionic collective, and that is going to make this plane of existence uninhabitable to their frequency and to their draconian off-world lords of time who vicariously live through them as agents and who've been harvesting us for millennia as a species and as a planet. So there's this incredible kind of this galactic exchange, this crossover, this handover that's occurring. You really need to put on a very special helmet to try and understand the holographic nature of what's going on. On the ground floor, you've got Fanos, you've got Dave, yourself, Nate, Jarmbi, myself, fighting the good fight on the ground. But it's so much more than that, the story. It's not about you and me versus a few police on the front line in Trafalgar Square or in Sydney Harbour. I mean, that's just nothing to do with it. It's so much more to do with this great turbulence, this great awakening, of the meta spirit of Homo sapien. So we've pretty much taken up to the hour. Jarmbi, I want to invite you, please, to just dispense your last words of wisdom to people looking in. Essentially, what is it that you can say to people looking in? Because 90% of the folks looking in here, and there will be tens of thousands and then hundreds of thousands within the coming days, just to this panel. And most of them are going to be Australasian based. Most of them are going to be relatively conscious. And most of them are going to be shit scared and feel that they can do very little themselves to change the format, to change the script. So please, can you speak to those people looking in?
I think the first thing and probably one of the most important things that a person needs to know is their ancestry. And when you understand your ancestry, it's like it's one of the main points at the end of teaching someone or showing someone how to find their sovereignty, how to find their own personal connection to the earth, their own personal connection to the creator. Their ancestry is there present, and it's amazing to watch people when I say in ceremony, now allow yourself to feel your ancestry and let yourself feel their hand on your shoulder, and they feel it. And the look on some people's faces is amazing. It blows them away. Now, understanding that they are the next step. They are the ones that their ancestors have chosen to step forward to do what needs to be done at this time. They absolutely are imperative to this moment. Everybody has a role to play. Everybody is a representative of their lineage, of their bloodlines, of their cultures, of the original bloodlines, all the way back to their old tribes all over the world. And in that is where the deepest respect comes, because for them to feel that and to understand that in themselves, to then meet the ancestors here in this country and allow themselves to see and feel and acknowledge their ancestors meeting my ancestors, and then the two ancestry lines having a nod of respect, a mark of respect between them for the understanding of the old cultures that they both carry, the old ways that the earth was taught to us. Those things are so fucking empowering. Way more than anything. Obviously, government's got nothing, corporate's got nothing. When you understand that and you stand in that place inside yourself, on any front line, anywhere, anytime in your life, day to day, you teach your kids from that place. You teach your kids to stand in their own. That's where the power and the magic and the everything to do with humanity, all the good stuff, that's where it springs from.
Beautiful. Thank you
So
very much. Beautiful.
very much my role is bringing that across, is bringing that into the now as much as possible, spread it far and wide. We don't have to steal, we don't have to hijack other people's cultures and that sort of thing, and just creating more division. We can learn as to why they did that when we understand who we are, and we can stand there in our own power and go, what does that ritual actually mean to me? Okay, so it hits this point. It helps me to connect this way, right? But that doesn't mean I have to go and wear those feathers. I don't have to go and take that medicine. I don't need to go and do a ritual the way they've done it, because now I understand me. I understand my own connection. I can see how they've got to doing that for what purpose, and I can do that for myself.
Great. Thank you. That's beautiful. I mean, I think it's very timely, your message. It's very effective. If you've just said that this is the vision quest that you're anchoring, and it's very timely. You know, we're coming to the end of so 500. I don't want to get into race and that division, but the reason why what you just said touches me, I'm a generational white African, and the white skins have, in the main, been the perpetrators over the last 500 years since the Papal Bulls of Discovery, being the ones behind the great desecration of the black skin, brown skin, red skin, and yellow skin peoples. And the net result of that desecration through the Vatican complex and all of that hubris of the imperial crowns of Europe and all that Dutch East India and British East India Company, all of that, spice trade and opium trade and all the rest of it, it empowered the whiteskins and made them lots of money and affluence and empire, lots of flags flying all around the world for the Portuguese and the Spanish and the Belgians and the French and the English. But what it also did was brought about a kind of destruction amongst our own family, our own kin, in our own communities, right? So we don't have that anymore. I'm reminded of that every day here living in Bali, and I see how my staff live amongst their peoples, and they're all so interconnected, and they carry that song of the ancestors in everything that they do. And I see the power of that, and I see the sense of belonging, and I see that that's why they don't commit crimes in their own community, because it's impossible to commit a crime in a neighborhood that's all so interconnected. You don't steal, you don't rape, you don't plunder, you don't pillage, you don't murder. You just don't do that stuff. But you do that stuff, or you start to create a mutant social construct when you break up that family, when you do what the great Fabianists and the Satanists in the West did by conjuring up the women's lib, as a kind of psyop, and get mothers out of the home into the workplace so that they can tax two people in the household now, the mother and the father. At the same time, they pulled the kids off the mum's tit and broken up that sacrament. And the rest just follows. And we've got this complete dystopia now playing out in Middle Australia, Middle America, Middle England. So when you say what you've just said, to me, it's got a hell of a lot of impact. And I thank you for those words of wisdom. Dave, please, brother, your last comments. And I'd ask you again, speak to your brothers and sisters in Australia who are looking in, want to be a part of the change, and are still feeling too reticent or disempowered to do anything themselves.
Yeah, thanks, Sacha. Look, I'll keep it really brief, guys. I know we want to wrap up the call, but every single Australian has been out here. Our nation is built on the Anzac legend, and we say lest we forget. And if we forget our origins, that we stood up to tyranny and we fought for this country and we fought for what is good and for what is right, if we forget that, then we go down a very, very dark road. And I just encourage every single Australian to remember what our ancestors fought and stood and died for. and to stand up for that again, because we have been lulled into a sense of complacency. There's been no major conflict in this country in living memory, and that is the key thing why this country has been targeted, because in the last 80 years, it's been the lucky country. And things aren't looking so lucky right now. So Australia needs to remember that we are a warrior nation and that they have come for us first, because we are the first line of defense. And however Australia goes, so goes the world. So I just encourage every single Australian to find their spirit, speak their truth, and stand up for who we are, because we are here in the most pivotal time, not for just our country, but for the world. And it's no dress rehearsal. So thank you for having me on the call. It's been a real pleasure and an honor. Thanks,
Beautiful.
everyone.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, brother. I just received a meme through from a Nicola who says, my 95-year-old mum knows the virus is a hoax. She's not following any of the government guidelines. She says she knows what's coming. And she urges everyone that she speaks to fight against this tyranny. She says she's lived through all this before. She was born in Berlin in 1925, 10 years before the onset of the Second World War. Fanos, same question to you, brother, please. Last comments and any words of encouragement to our fellow brothers and sisters in Australia who are on the line and not quite entering into their flame yet.
Yeah, I think if I'm going to say something, it would be everyone needs to understand we're in unprecedented times, that we are seriously the test bed for how the rest of the world is going to go with regards to, totalitarian control and how much the world will actually push back. And people need to surround themselves with the right people and educate themselves beyond belief now. And, if you're really on the fence and you're only not speaking up because you're afraid of what people will think and whatever else, the time for fear is over. It's really time to step into your own, grow a set, and actually start talking to people, because it's only as a collective consciousness, as a people, where enough people within a circle start speaking, where the lie starts to degrade and the truth starts to come out, right? But if no one says anything in a circle, then you could have a whole bunch of 25, 30 circle of friends who all believe the same thing, that this is a farce and this is a hoax, but everyone's thinking the same thing. They don't want to say anything. Well, if no one says anything, then you're going to have 30 people who thought to say something, but no one did. So you might as well have had 30 people that still believe that this is all a hoax. So stand in your truth. If you believe that there's seriously something going on, it's time to speak to the circle, to the people in your circle, and stop being afraid and start standing up, because we don't have any more time. This is it. If we don't get this right, we're going to have a very, very, very different life in the very near future, if I was going to say anything. And stay
Beautiful.
positive.
Thank you, Fanos. And yeah, you're under strict instructions from us to stay safe. We need you uncaged if possible. Nate, unmute, and please, last word to you, mate. Imani, please come back online. But Nate, your message, please, to brothers and sisters who are still dithering on that line. It's so important that anyone dithering on that line gets that you could actually make the difference. You could be that one grain of sand on the right side of the scale that just tips the balance. It comes down to that. And remember your soul covenant, and remember the divine comedy. Remember, this is all a goddamn joke in a sense. I mean, think about being from the Pleiades or Andromedan galaxy and coming to this world and seeing this ridiculous farce being played out by stupid little humans called politicians, stupid little humans called public health administrators or United Nations permanent representatives or whatever fancy bullshit title these humanoids dream up for themselves with the fringe benefits of working for the parent corporation. It's all a godless, witless, gormless, soulless game unless you position yourself on the right side of the line. Step into that fire and lay claim to the Adam which is you and I, Homo sapiens sapien, rising. Nate, last word to you, please.
Well said. Well, the easiest thing we can do right now is connect with our neighbors up and down the street. Most people don't know who their neighbors are 10 houses down the street. Get out and talk to them. Organize your friends and your family to come over, have a dinner, have a barbecue, have tea, whatever. Get connected with all the people around the area. Everyone wants to connect now. Everyone's a bit concerned about what's going on. Most people know that the world's awakening. And the biggest trick that's ever been played on us is that we are a grain of sand. Humans are actually a fucking massive boulder, but we're all being led to believe that, oh, what can I do? You know, what can I do? I'm only one person, but like 7 billion one people is like a lot of grains of sand and a lot of boulders, spiritual boulders and spiritual rocks, which are here to kind of birth this new situation. Now, that's the easiest thing. I don't need to say anymore. I think it's already happening. I think it's already rolling out. If we are apparently the beta test for the rest of the world, okay, say New Zealand and Australia are at the bottom of the barrel, well then all these other countries above us are already way more awake than we are. So if we're waking up in massive droves here in Australia and New Zealand, then fuck, what's there to do? All the other countries are already throwing rocks and all the rest of it, Brazil, Egypt, Argentina, America's having a mass awakening. These countries aren't to be fucked with. You know what I mean? Their governments know they can't do shit because the people are unified and they're ready to fight for their freedom. You need to look into these videos like William Wallace. Get back into your genetics and to your past history of where you came from, like what Jarmbi said, because there is so much medicine in your culture. And get motivated, get psyched and realize this is the Third World War, you know what I mean? And this is going to go down history of what did you do? Did you do everything in your power or did you just fence sit and hope that someone else was going to do something? If you're not doing shit, other people aren't. So just take it from your own perspective, what you're doing. What you do is what everyone else is going to do. So you lead by example and inspire by example. And that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nate. Thanks, Fanos. Thank you, Dave. Beautiful meeting you today. And Jarmbi, delightful. Thank you. Imani, back to you.
Wow. So I just want to just sit with this for a minute because the power of what you guys just all collectively put through to everyone. There's so many people tuning in, even as we've hacked this to stream this onto different platforms. I knew this was a potent message, but just speaking on behalf of the feminine, I just want to recognize each of you as anchoring in the masculine, because this is so what we need on this planet is for all of you as men to step up and stand for truth. So just speaking on behalf of all of the women everywhere that are tuning in, that are watching and watching all of you, but watching you in Australia, like you guys are, there's something major activating there and it is waking up the whole planet. So I just want you to know that we are standing behind you. We have your back and we are so, so grateful for the work that you're doing. And you know, all of the truths that are coming through, there's so much that you resonated. All of you said really powerful things. We will be getting this out. Clips of everything that was amazing saying so that these can be activations for everyone to remember that we are sovereign, that this is our time. This is exactly what we came here for. And we're all showing up on purpose at this perfect divine moment. You know, there were a lot of comments as we were going through. I would say this is a pretty active conversation just from the other side, the people that, and we probably had more trolls on this conversation than any we've had. And that's probably due to you, Fanos and Davio, because we've never had so many trolls on any conversation we've had. And this is number 56. So thank you for stirring things up. But I just want to speak on behalf because, you know, anytime that people are speaking truth, it's going to get countered, and that's going to be the test for us to stand even stronger. And I think that your message is so powerful that it's starting to crack bigger and bigger gaps. So thank you all for your bravery, for your courage. Thank you, Sacha, for always stirring things up and being you and activating. And we're going to continue to send these messages out around the world. So 1 week from today, we're doing Drawing the Line in the Sand. That was actually activated from all of you from when we were feeling everybody reaching out from Australia, asking for help. Sacha is going to be giving out messages that we're going to record that'll go out to all the different countries. So anyone that's tuning in that, you know, wants that message, we're going to be streaming that along with the Draw the Line in the Sand. So we'll have over 40 of the voices. Some of you will be on there with us, 4-hour marathon virtual that we're going to be as a collective people saying no more. We do not consent. So I just want to say thank you to all of you. For those of you tuning in that might be new to us, you can get the countdown and stay on our mailing list because we are clearly being blocked. Could not stream today on our platform. Go to reclaimyourlives.com to stay in touch with us. Thank you all again. Thank you, Sacha. Appreciate everyone.
Thank you, Mani.